I'm Jennifer Sanasi. You're watching News 24 Live. Well, I'm joined in studio by South African journalist Janice Warman. She's just released her book, Class of 79, which follows the lives of 3 anti-apartheid journalists that went to Rhodes University with her. Hello.
Hello.
Now, tell me about the Class of 79. Why write this book now?
Well, I was back here covering the election 2009 for The Spectator and The Observer, and it occurred to me that these 3 people I've been interested in for so long, it was 30 years on exactly, and I thought it was time. It was something that had been in my mind for a long time. I found some notes in an old notebook from a decade before that outlining the book, so I thought it was time to pursue it, so I looked them all up.
Now tell me about these 3 people that we learn about in the book.
Well, Marion Sparg is potentially, I guess, the most famous in a way, because she actually was the first white woman ever to join MK, and she left South Africa in '81 and went to train with them in Angola, learned to shoot an AK-47 straight, and walked back in with a rucksack full of limpet mines. She bombed 3 police stations, and in fact the fact that she was white really helped her, because at John Forster Square she was stopped by a black policeman on the way in, and a white policeman said to him, "You can't search her, she's white." So she walked in and put the limpet mine up, and of course it exploded. She was then, a little while later, followed and then arrested in her flat. Somebody she believes betrayed her. And she was then sentenced to life imprisonment. Happily, she didn't serve that. She was released in '91. And she then went in to help, write the Constitution. So, luckily, she, as she said to me, that if she hadn't been a woman and white, she may well have been hanged, because we did, of course, then have the death sentence, and she was actually imprisoned, or arrested, or sentenced rather, for treason as well as arson. So that did carry the death sentence.
Wow, now that's Sparg. Now we have 2 other people in this book that you follow closely.
Yes.
Why don't you introduce us to this?
Yes, well, Zubaydah Jaffer came as one of the few black students in our class, because that particular university and that particular class was not available at black universities. That meant that black students could come and join the journalism class. So we did actually have a mixed race class, which at the time was extraordinary in South Africa. She came and joined us in 2nd year. She already had a degree from Cape Town, and she came in on a fast stream. She was political from the moment she arrived. She was told after the 1st year that there had to be separate black residences. She refused. She was asked to actually help run them. She refused. In her political act, she went out and found other places to live. And then straight after university, she joined the Cape Times, and within 6 months she was in detention for reporting on unrest on the Cape Flats. And she was terribly tortured twice over. The first time was, as I say, only 6 months after graduation. Then again, 5 years later, when she was pregnant with her child. And then at that point, they threatened to poison the baby. And she refused to play ball. She did not give in to them. And she was released. But of course, it carried a heavy price. I think anyone who's been in detention like that carries a heavy price afterwards. And I think both she and Marion actually suffered from post-traumatic stress as a result of what they went through. But today she is the writer-in-residence at the Orange Free State University. She runs a very important website called The Journalist, and she's flying down to join me for the Cape Town launch on the 6th of March.
That's going to be incredible.
Which would be great. And in fact, Marion will be with me in Johannesburg on the 4th of March for that launch.
Wow.
Yes.
Now, what was it like being a part of a mixed race class in 1979?
Well, the astonishing thing was, of course, it was perfectly normal. I'd grown up in a white middle-class neighbourhood in Rondebosch, daughter of a publisher, and we had been effectively so completely separated that the only people we came across were housekeepers or staff at our school. We just did not know anybody. But then, of course, you get into a class like that, and as my friend Brian Tilley, also in class of 79, said to me, the thing was that the minute you got into there and you started relating to people, you realised that, he said, I had much, much more in common with them than many of my, my fellow school pupils. So it struck us that that's why it was so crazy.
Wow. What's it like writing about all of these extraordinary people you went to school with?
Well, I still admire them so much, because I, by contrast, graduated and then actually left, because my feeling was I knew I wasn't brave enough to do what they did. but I did not want to stay because I felt that by staying and doing nothing, I was then supporting the system by doing nothing. So I have huge admiration for them. And of course, there's a third person, Guy Berger,
right,
who was arrested shortly after we graduated, so early 1980, for having banned books, which sounds ridiculous nowadays.
It does sound absolutely ridiculous.
Absolutely, and he was arrested, he was interrogated, he was kept in detention without trial, and eventually he was put on trial, and then he was sentenced to 4 years, which I think was commuted to 2 years. And of course, another issue, and this faced all of them, if you pleaded not guilty, then people would be subpoenaed to come in to testify against you, the other activists and your family. And if they refused, then they would be imprisoned. So without exception, these people then pleaded guilty to save their friends, Veda and Marion and Guy. So I have huge admiration for them on all fronts.